is almost rounded. The borders are ill-defined, not well-defined. You will have 5 surfaces: anterior surface, posterior surface, the medial surface and lateral surface. Anatomically, depending upon the anatomical position of the tibia, these 4 surfaces. And the last one is inferior surface, which is the lower surface of the tibia. But anteriorly and posteriorly, there are no bony landmarks. That is very, very important. Anteriorly and posteriorly, you will not find any important bony landmarks like tibial tuberosity or condyles in the upper end. But important structures are related to it that I will discuss in the next slide. But the medial surface of the tibia is very, very important. There is a bony projection. This is very, very important landmark in the lower end of tibia. The medial malleolus is the most important bony projection in the lower end of the tibia. This will be asked in the examination. If you get the tibia, this is the most commonly asked question. That bony projection is called medial malleolus. Because it is present in the medial bone, and it is medial malleolus. The lateral malleolus is present in the fibula, that is the lateral bone. And laterally, there is another bony landmark on the lateral surface of the lower end, that is called fibular notch. Because it articulates with the lower end of the fibula, hence this notch is called fibular notch. It forms inferior tibiofibular joint. And inferiorly, this surface is articular surface that articulates with the talus, that is the tarsal bone, and to form ankle joint. Out of 5 surfaces, 2 surfaces will form the joints, lateral surface with fibula to form inferior tibiofibular joint. It is a syndesmosis type of fibrous joint. The inferior surface is articular, articulates with the talus to form ankle joint. This is the lower end of the tibia, and this is a medial surface. There is a bony landmark. This is the prominent feature. This downward bony landmark is called medial malleolus. On the lateral side, this is the notch for the fibula. This notch is fibular notch. The inferiorly it articulates with the talus. This is the tarsal bone to form ankle joint. And this is anterior surface, and opposite to behind you will have a posterior surface. Coming to the anterior surface. Once again I am telling you, this anterior surface, there is no bony landmark anteriorly. But there are important structures which are present, related on the anterior surface of the tibia. Anterior surface, all these structures, the last 3 things I have underlined, these are very, very important. The anterior aspect of the wrist, corresponds with the posterior aspect of the ankle. And the posterior aspect of the wrist corresponds with the anterior aspect of the ankle. Because of 2 different rotations, upper limbs undergoes lateral rotations, lower limbs undergoes medial rotation. The ankle joint corresponds with the wrist joint. Around the wrist you will have a retinaculum, around the ankle you will have a retinaculum. But the anterior aspect of wrist is equal to the posterior aspect of the ankle. That means the extensor retinaculum on the back of the wrist present on the front of the ankle. The flexor retinaculum on the front of the wrist is present on the back of the ankle. That means anterior compartment of leg corresponds with the posterior compartment of forearm posterior compartment of forearm corresponds with the anterior compartment of leg. This reversal is because of reverse in the rotation of the limbs after development. These three things are very, very important. The structures related anterior aspect of the lower end of the tibia are the contents of anterior compartment of leg. All these are contents of anterior compartment of leg. It is extensor compartment or structures under cover of extensor retinaculum or anterior relations of the ankle joint. These three things, the answer is same. Anterior compartment structures are structures under cover of extensor retinaculum or anterior relations of ankle joint. Answer is same. To remember all these structures, there is a mnemonic. Tall husbands are not dear persons. Tall husbands are not dear persons. This is medial to lateral. This mnemonic structures will be ordered from medial to lateral. T stands for tibialis anterior tendon. H stands for hallucis longus tendon because it is extensor compartment, extensor hallucis longus tendon. A stands for artery, that is anterior compartment artery, is anterior tibial artery. N stands for nerve, that is a deep peroneal nerve, it is the nerve of anterior compartment. And D stands for digitorum longus tendon, it is the extensor digitorum longus because anterior compartment also called extensor compartment. And the last muscle is peroneus tertius tendon. All these things will be dealt while discussing about the leg. For the time being, at least you remember these structures. The structures related to the anterior surface of lower end of tibia, the medial to lateral, there are 6 in number. The mnemonic is tall husbands are not dear persons. The contents of anterior compartment are structures under cover of extensor retinaculum or anterior relations of ankle joint. In this picture, you can see from medial to lateral side. From medial to lateral side. This is tibialis anterior. This is extensor hallucis longus tendon. After that, you can see this red color tibialis anterior artery, this yellow color deep peroneal nerve. After that, this muscle is extensor digitorum longus. And after that, this muscle, this is the extensor digitorum longus, this one. These 4 tendons and the 5th tendon is represented by peroneus tertius muscle. This is the extensor retinaculum. It has got Y shape. The extensor retinaculum has got 2 parts. This is superior extensor retinaculum. This is inferior extensor retinaculum. If you take the wrist, only one extensor retinaculum is present. If you take the ankle, 2 extensor retinaculum, superior extensor retinaculum and inferior extensor retinaculum. Coming to the posterior surface of the lower end of the tibia, here also important structures are related, no important bony landmark. The same thing, the contents of the posterior compartment of leg, not all contents, but all these are the deep structures of the posterior compartment of leg are structures under cover of flexor retinaculum or the medial relations of ankle joint, not the posterior relations. Once again, I repeat, the anterior relations of lower end or ankle joint is same, but the posterior relations of the lower end of tibia is equal to the medial relations of the ankle joint because they change their direction to enter into the foot. The one mnemonic to remember all these things is Tulsidas Amar Nahi Hai. There are 5 structures from medial to lateral. Tibialis posterior tendon because of posterior compartment. Posterior compartment is flexor compartment. Flexor digitorum longus tendon, artery, posterior tibial artery, nerve, tibial nerve. The last muscle flexor hallucis longus tendon. If you remember this mnemonic, the order of the structures, once again I am telling you, these are the contents of not all, but anterior compartment, all structures will be covered. But in the posterior compartment, only deep structures will be covered. Structures under cover of flexor retinaculum are contents of posterior compartment of leg, are medial relations of the ankle joint. In this picture, you can see this is the tibialis posterior tendon, then flexor. In this picture, you can see flexor digitorum longus tendon. Then this is flexor hallucis longus tendon. This is posterior tibial artery. This is the tibial nerve. This band is flexor retinaculum present on the medial side of the ankle. But if you take wrist joint, the flexor retinaculum is present in the front of the wrist. But if you take the ankle, the flexor retinaculum is present on the medial side of the ankle. The lateral side, another retinaculum is present, that is peroneal retinaculum. Around the ankle, you will have three types of retinacula: extensor, flexor, and peroneal. Peroneal two in number, superior and inferior. Extensor two in number, superior and inferior. Flexor only one. There are three retinacula, but five in number around the ankle joint. Unlike wrist joint, there you will have only two types of retinacula. These are the structures related on the posterior surface. Coming to the medial surface, it is subcutaneous. Sub means below, cutaneous means skin. It is covered only by the skin. Those structures are called subcutaneous. Covered only by the skin, but the downward bony projection called medial malleolus. Medial malleolus belongs to medial bone, that is tibia. Lateral malleolus belongs to lateral bone, that is fibula. That you have to remember. Lateral malleolus present at a lower level than medial malleolus, like the styloid process of radius at a lower level than the styloid process of ulna. Same thing. There also lateral bone at a lower level. Here also lateral bony projection at a lower level. Coming to the medial malleolus, this is very, very important. 3 mark short notes. The anteriorly, you will have the attachment of inferior extensor retinaculum. It is Y-shaped, the upper band. In this picture, I will show you. This is inferior extensor retinaculum, superior extensor retinaculum. Inferior extensor retinaculum medially divides into Y-shaped band. The upper limb attached to the anterior aspect of medial malleolus. This Y-shaped structure is inferior extensor retinaculum. And posteriorly, it is grooved by tibialis posterior tendon. The medial malleolus posteriorly, it is grooved by tibialis posterior tendon. And inferiorly, there is attachment of flexor retinaculum. Here you can see, this is the flexor retinaculum attached to the inferior aspect of the medial malleolus. And deep to the flexor retinaculum, there is a ligament called medial ligament of ankle joint, also called deltoid ligament. These two things are very, very important as far as medial malleolus is concerned. And the medial aspect of medial malleolus is subcutaneous. It is covered only by the skin. That projection can be seen on the medial side of the ankle. But laterally, there is a facet. Laterally, there is articular facet for the medial side of the talus. It contributes in the ankle joint. The lateral part of ankle joint is formed by the medial part of the ankle joint. There is a lateral aspect of medial malleolus and inferior aspect of lower end of tibia, both articulates with the talus to form ankle joint. In this picture, you can see the inferior surface of the tibia and the lateral surface of medial malleolus, both articulates with the talus. This blue color represents hyaline cartilage. It forms the ankle joint. The medial malleolus higher than the lateral malleolus. I told you these things are very, very important. This lateral malleolus at a lower level than the medial malleolus, like The radial styloid process at lower level than ulnar styloid process. Both are lateral bones. Radius is also lateral and the fibula is also lateral in position. Coming to the lateral surface of the tibia, I have already told you there is important bony landmark that is not the elevation, that is a depression called fibular notch. This fibular notch articulates with the lower end of the fibula and to form inferior tibiofibular joint. The inferior tibiofibular joint is the classical example of syndesmosis type of fibrous joint because these two parts are united by a ligament called interosseous tibiofibular ligament. If any two bones united by the fibrous tissue, those type of joints are syndesmosis type of fibrous joint. In this picture, you can see this is the lower end of tibia. This is medial malleolus. I told you the deltoid ligament is attached to the lower end of medial malleolus. It is the medial ligament of ankle joint. Laterally, there is a notch called fibular notch for the lower end of fibula. In this picture, you can see this is the ligaments which holds the lower end of tibia and fibula. This is the interosseous ligament, interosseous tibiofibular ligament. Hence, this inferior tibiofibular joint is called the syndesmosis type of fibrous joint. And I told you the lower end of medial malleolus, once again, this is the deltoid ligament, the medial ligament of ankle joint. The inferior surface of the lower end of tibia is articular, covered by hyaline cartilage. Any articular surface is covered by hyaline cartilage, not only tibia. And it articulates with upper surface of the body of the talus. This is the upper surface of body of the talus to form ankle joint. Ankle joint is a modified hinge type of joint. And, this is about the lower end of the tibia. And what are the important structures related, what are the important bony landmarks, and what are the joints formed by the lower end. These questions will be asked individually. If you get the tibia, what are the joints formed by the lower end? What are the attachments of medial malleolus? Like that, the questions will be asked separately. You have to read each surface separately. Coming to the shaft or body of the tibia, this is the main part of the tibia. This is very, very important. Ends are not main parts. These are the accessory parts of the bone. But the shaft and body are the main parts of the bone. It is triangular in outline. Because it is triangular in outline, in this picture you can see this is the cross section of the leg. The medial bone is tibia and lateral bone is fibula. Both are united by interosseous membrane. Because it is triangular in cross section, this is anterior aspect, anterior border, lateral border and medial border. If you see the shape of the tibia, the borders will be easily identified. It is triangular. The apex is directed anteriorly, that is anterior border. The lateral angle is lateral border, medial angle is medial border. Like that, between anterior border and lateral border, this is the lateral surface. Between anterior and medial border, this is a medial surface. Between medial and lateral border, this is posterior surface. This is the anterior compartment or extensor compartment. This is posterior compartment or flexor compartments of the leg. Once again, I am telling you because it is triangular in outline, three borders, anterior border and lateral border, because it gives attachment to the interosseous membrane, hence it is called interosseous border. This is medial border, three borders and three surfaces, lateral surface towards the fibula, medial surface and the posterior surface. The shaft and body, because they are triangular in outline, three borders, anterior border is called the shin of the tibia. The shin of the tibia is nothing but the anterior border of the tibia, hence tibia is called a shin bone. And the medial border, there is no special name. Coming to the lateral border, it gives attachment to the interosseous membrane, hence it is called interosseous border. Three surfaces I have already shown you: the medial surface, lateral surface, and posterior surface. If you know the shape of the bone and its orientation, the surfaces will be named by keeping the bone and its anatomical position. That is very, very important. In this picture also you can see, this is another picture. This is the tibia, this is the fibula, anterior border, lateral border, medial border, medial surface, lateral surface, and posterior surface. Coming to the anterior border, it is also called shin of tibia. The superior extensor retinaculum above the medial malleolus. The medial malleolus gives attachment to the inferior extensor retinaculum. The superior extensor retinaculum is attached to the superior extensor retinaculum is attached to the, I am telling you, this is the superior extensor retinaculum. The medial part is attached to the anterior border of the shaft of the tibia, not the lower end of the tibia. The shaft of the anterior border of lower end gives attachment to the superior extensor retinaculum. These are the two important things as far as shaft is concerned. The anterior border is concerned. Anterior border is called shin of tibia. The superior extensor retinaculum is attached above the medial malleolus. I told you lateral border gives attachment to the interosseous membrane, and it forms a joint called middle tibiofibular joint. The lateral border articulates with the medial border of the fibula through the interosseous membrane. Because it is a fibrous tissue, it is named as middle tibiofibular joint. It is interosseous type of fibrous joint, hence lateral border is called interosseous border. The medial border, there is a line called soleal line present on the posterior surface of the tibia. I will show that. Here you can see, this is the posterior surface of the tibia. In the upper part, there is an oblique line. It is a linear bony elevation. This rough line is called soleal line. There is a muscle, important muscle in the posterior compartment of the leg is called soleus muscle. The shape of the muscle is like sole of foot. The sole of the foot shape is equal to the muscle shape, hence it is called soleus muscle. Because that muscle takes origin from this line, hence this line is called soleal line. It is an oblique line. The soleus muscle is very, very important. It is named as peripheral heart. The peripheral heart is nothing but soleus muscle. The central heart, you know, that is the main heart which is present in the thorax. The peripheral hearts means they are represented by the muscles. The blood flow in the arteries will be controlled by the central heart made up of cardiac muscle. The blood flow in the veins will be controlled by the contraction of skeletal muscles. In the lower limb, the blood flow in the veins against gravity, that will be because of contractions of the soleus muscle, hence it is called peripheral heart of body. That muscle takes origin from this line, this oblique line, hence it is called soleal line. This is the medial border. It cuts the medial border. It cuts the medial border above the soleal line, below the soleal line. Soleal line cuts medial border. Above the soleal line, the tibial collateral ligament, that is the medial ligament of knee joint, is attached to it. the medial ligament and lateral ligaments of elbow joint. In the same way, you will have medial collateral ligaments and lateral collateral ligaments in the knee joint. There ulnar collateral, radial collateral, here tibial collateral, that is medial, fibular collateral, that is lateral. And semimembranosus muscle, this is the muscle of back of thigh. For the time being, you remember like this, the muscle of back of thigh also inserted here. And this is a secondary insertion. Primary insertion, there is a groove on the posteromedial aspect of medial tibial condyle. And fossa covering the popliteus muscle. The popliteus muscle also I have shown you. And once again, I will show that diagram. The fossa covering popliteus, these three important structures attached to the medial border above the soleal line. Below the soleal line, there is the origin of soleus muscle. Not only from the soleal line, it also takes its origin from the medial border below the soleal line. These are the important attachments on the medial border of the shaft of tibia. Coming to the medial surface. The upper part of medial surface, you have three muscles. This is very, very important as far as your viva is concerned, or 3 mark short notes are concerned. The entire medial surface is subcutaneous. It is covered only by the skin. The only one vein passing over this surface, that is called great saphenous vein. In the upper limb, you will have 2 important superficial veins. They are called cephalic vein and basilic vein. In the same way, in the lower limb also, you will have 2 important superficial veins, great saphenous vein and short saphenous vein. The cephalic basilic starts in the back of the hand. In the same way, the great saphenous, short saphenous starts in the dorsum of the foot. That great saphenous vein is mainly related to the medial surface of the tibia. That upper part receives the insertions of 3 muscles from the 3 compartments of the thigh. That is very, very important. From the anterior compartment of the thigh, sartorius muscle, medial compartment of thigh, gracilis muscle, and the posterior compartment of thigh, semitendinosus. There are 3 muscles from the 3 compartments. All are attached to the upper part of medial surface of tibia. You have to remember like this. If you take the intertubercular sulcus of humerus, there are 3 muscles will be remembered like this. Lady between 2 majors. Like that, this upper part of medial surface of tibia, the another mnemonic, the grace between 2 sardars. Sardars, the grace means it is the name of the lady. For the time being, you remember like that. Between 2 sardars, these are the majors present in the army. For the time being, sardars are well known. First sardar is sartorius from the anterior compartment. Last sardar is semitendinosus from the posterior compartment. That grace, the name of the female between 2 males, that is gracilis from the medial compartment of thigh. That is very, very important. Sartorius starts with SA, semitendinosus starts with SE. A comes first, then E. Don't be confused with sartorius and semitendinosus. All these 3 tendons are separated from one another by means of a bursa called bursa anserinus. This bursa anserinus is the most important bursa. It separates the insertions of all these 3 muscles from one another. The insertion of sartorius is the shape of this sartorius insertion is hockey stick. This you have to remember. The shape of the insertion of sartorius looks like a hockey stick, like a U-shaped bilaminar insertion of pectoralis major. This is a hockey stick shaped insertion. And lower part subcutaneous means covered only by the skin and the superficial vein. This is very, very important. The most important vein in the entire lower limb, the great saphenous vein, equal to the cephalic vein of the upper limb. These three muscles, this is the upper end of medial surface of the tibia. This is the anterior end because patella, tibial tuberosity, first sartorius from the anterior compartment, gracilis from the medial compartment, semitendinosus from the posterior compartment, separated from one another by means of pes anserinus or anserine bursa. Pes means foot. It is a goose foot. It is a type of duck. If you take the shape of the foot of the duck, all digits are separated from one another. Here also this is the bursa. It separates the insertions of all three muscles. Hence it has got its name. Bursa anserina, goose foot shape. The lateral surface is monopolished. That means only one muscle. The upper 2/3 of the entire lateral surface gives origin to the tibialis anterior muscle. In the lower limb, you will have a special movements like inversion and eversion. Inversion and eversion, these are the two special movements takes place at tarsal joints, not at the ankle joints. If you take supination and pronation, and like that, this inversion and eversion, these are also a special movements which takes place at the mid-tarsal joints. These inverters are tibialis anterior and posterior. These are the two special muscles present in the lower limb. One in the anterior compartment, that is tibialis anterior. One in the posterior compartment, that is tibialis posterior. These two muscles are called inverters of the foot because walking on uneven surface is very, very difficult. If our foot is flat and rigid, it is very, very difficult to walk on uneven surface. To accommodate our foot on uneven surface, these are the two important movements, inversion and eversion. The inverters are tibialis anterior and posterior, one on the anterior compartment, other one in the posterior compartment. The tibialis anterior is the only muscle present on the lateral surface. This is the lateral surface of the tibia. The entire upper 2/3 gives origin to the lateral surface, gives origin to the tibialis anterior muscle. It is an inverter of the foot. The posterior surface, I told you, the one important line. This is oblique line because it gives origin to the soleus muscle. It has become soleal line. It divides posterior surface into upper small triangular surface, lower large surface. It divides the posterior surface into two parts, upper small triangular, lower larger area. This ill-defined vertical ridge, it divides the lower larger area into medial part and lateral part. This ill-defined line, it divides the lower larger area into medial part and lateral part. That means posterior surface, three important parts, upper small triangular part and medial part and lateral part. By two lines, one oblique line has got special name, soleal line. This vertical line has got no special name. In this picture you can see, this is the soleal line. This upper small triangular part receives the insertion of popliteus muscle. I told you this popliteus muscle present in the back of the knee. Back of the knee is called popliteal fossa. Front of elbow is called cubital fossa. Because it is present in the popliteal fossa, hence this muscle is called popliteus muscle, is inserted to the, in this upper triangular area, the insertion of popliteus muscle. The soleal line gives origin to the soleus muscle. Once again, I'm telling you, this is the peripheral heart. Contraction of this muscle, the blood flow in the veins will be maintained. And this vertical line, it divides lower larger area, I have told you, into medial part and lateral part. Medial part gives origin to the flexor digitorum longus, and the lateral part gives origin to the tibialis posterior. These are the muscles of back of the leg. For the time being, you remember names of these muscles. In this picture, this is the back of the tibia. This pink oblique line is the soleal line. This is the origin of soleus muscle. Upper smaller triangular area receives the insertion of popliteus muscle. Lower larger area divided by vertical line. This is the medial part for flexor digitorum longus origin, and that lateral part tibialis posterior. These are the three important muscles. Takes origin from the posterior surface of the tibia. First, you have to remember how many muscles are attached. That is very, very important. If you remember the number, automatically you can recollect names of the muscles. Once again, I am telling you. First of all, one thing is very, very important. After knowing three borders and three surfaces, you should know what are the borders and surfaces related to the compartment. That is very, very important. In this picture, I will show you. This is the anterior border, and this is the lateral border, and this is the lateral surface. Lateral surface belongs to anterior compartment of the leg. This blue color muscles represents anterior compartment. That means the lateral border and the anterior border, this lateral surface, are the boundaries of anterior compartment of the leg. Anterior compartment present on the lateral side of the tibia. This is very, very important. There is no medial compartment in the leg. That medial compartment will be represented by only skin and the great saphenous vein. This is the anterior border and this is the medial border. This is the medial surface. You will not find muscles. This medial surface is subcutaneous. It is represented only by the skin and the great saphenous vein. In the upper part, attachments of three muscles from three different compartments. This lateral border and medial border, this is the posterior surface, belongs to the posterior compartment of leg. In the leg, you will have three compartments. Lateral compartment, it is lateral in position, posterior compartment, posterior in position. But this anterior compartment is also present on the lateral aspect and lateral to the tibia. The most important thing, the surfaces, you have to see the surfaces, whether they belongs to anterior compartment or posterior compartment or medial compartment. If you know the surfaces and its relations to the compartments, easily the attachments of the muscles will be easy. Because the lateral surface belongs to anterior compartment. Only anterior compartment muscles will be attached there. If you take the tibia, only one muscle, that is tibialis anterior. Tibia, tibialis anterior. Because the lateral surface belongs to anterior compartment. If you take the posterior surface belongs to posterior compartment, all muscles from the posterior compartment, only three muscles, popliteus, flexor digitorum longus and tibialis posterior. That is very, very important. This is flexor digitorum longus on the medial part. This is tibialis posterior on the lateral part of tibia. And this entire muscle is soleus. And these are the gastrocnemius. And this is a flexor hallucis longus. All these things, while discussing about the leg, you will come to know. Coming to the blood supply of the tibia. There is a nutrient foramen in the tibia which is present on the posterior aspect of the tibia. Because it is present on the posterior aspect of the tibia, it belongs to posterior compartment because it is supplied by, because of this it is supplied by posterior tibial artery. The posterior tibial artery and anterior tibial artery, these are the two important branches of popliteal artery. It is the continuation of femoral artery. Like brachial artery divides into radial artery and ulnar artery, here also this femoral artery becomes popliteal and then divides into anterior tibial and posterior tibial. Posterior tibial artery supplies nutrient artery to the tibia. The tibia has got the largest nutrient foramen. Once again, I repeat, the largest nutrient foramen is present in the tibia. Because of this, the largest nutrient artery is from the posterior tibial artery. The direction of nutrient foramen is opposite to the growing end. The upper end of tibia is the going end. That means the nutrient foramen is directed towards the lower end. The growing end, it elongates, it increases in size. There will be a stretching and rupture of the artery. Because of this, the nutrient artery always runs in opposite direction to the growing end. Otherwise, it will be stretched and ruptured because of elongation of growing end of the tibia. These things are very, very important. The nutrient foramen of tibia is the largest one in the body. That nutrient artery is the largest artery. Based on this, the growing end will be decided. And coming to the ossification, this is very, very important. The basically one primary centers and two secondary centers. If you take any long bone, the typical long bone, the primary center is always one, which gives rise to the main part of the body that is called shaft. Before it is fully developed, it is called diaphysis. The two secondary centers gives rise to upper end and lower end. Two or more than two. But in the tibia, upper end one secondary ossification center, lower end one secondary ossification centers. Once the bone is fully developed, upper end and lower end, before its development, in the young bone or developing bone or growing bone, they are called upper epiphysis and lower epiphysis. Sometimes you will have more than two secondary ossification centers for the condyles and tibial tuberosity or medial malleolus. Sometimes may be present, may not be present, but 100% two ossification centers secondary. So the part is the main part shaft. In the developing stage, it is called diaphysis. It develops from one primary ossification center. The primary ossification center, according to the laws of ossification, always develops before birth. 7th week of intrauterine life. This is fixed. These are called laws of ossification. The primary ossification center develops before birth. That means the shaft and the body, that is the main part of the bone which develops before birth. The upper end or epiphysis, upper epiphysis develops from only one secondary ossification center. If you take the humerus, one secondary ossification center for lesser tubercle, one for the greater tubercle, one for the head. There are three secondary ossification centers in the upper end. If you take the tibia, only one ossification center, usually. Sometimes additional centers for the tibial tuberosity will be present, but The one is clear. It appears the secondary ossification centers as a loss of ossification. The secondary ossification centers appear after birth. That means ends and epiphysis starts its ossification after birth. Hence, they are called secondary centers. Primary means before birth, secondary means after birth. If you take the lower end of femur and upper end of tibia and fibula, this is very, very important. They violates law of ossification. The secondary ossification centers of lower end of femur and the upper end of tibia and fibula, they appear just before birth at the time of 9th month. They violates law of ossification just before birth and fusion with the diaphysis at the age of 18 years. Fusion with the diaphysis at the age of 18 years. The one thing about the upper end of tibia is it violates the law of ossification. Instead of developing after birth, it develops just before birth at the age of 9th month of intrauterine life. Lower end or lower epiphysis is only one secondary ossification center as usual. Appears after birth the first year and fuses with the diaphysis at the 17th year. Here another law of ossification is called law of fusion of epiphysis with the diaphysis. That law is, once again I repeat, epiphysis which appears first fuses with the diaphysis last. That is the growing end of the bone. Usually the epiphysis which appears first fuses with the diaphysis last. That is the law of fusion of epiphysis with the diaphysis. The epiphysis which appears last fuses with the diaphysis first. That is the non-growing end of the bone. If you take the tibia, it appears just before birth and fuses with the diaphysis 18 years. But the lower end, first year and 7th year, appears last, fuses first. This is non-growing end. Appears first, fuses with the diaphysis last. This is the growing end of the tibia. Two important things as far as ossification is concerned. Upper end of tibia or upper epiphysis. One thing is, it is the growing end of the tibia because the epiphysis appears first and fuses with the diaphysis last. The growing end will be decided by two things. One is the direction of the nutrient foramen and the fusion of the time of fusion of epiphysis with the diaphysis. The second important point, the violates laws of ossification. The secondary ossification center appears just before birth, that is at the time of 9th month. The law is always secondary ossification centers appear after birth. At this time, I want to remind you the law of ossification. The laws of ossification, there are a number of laws that you have to remember. For the time being, I will tell you three laws. One is the primary ossification centers appears before birth. That means the diaphysis or main part, that is shaft of the bone, develops before birth. Second law, secondary ossification centers develops after birth. That means ends of the bone or epiphysis of the bone develops after birth. The third law is the epiphysis which appears first fuses with the diaphysis last. That is the law, is the growing end of the bone. This laws, there are other so many laws. Suppose if you take the two epiphyses, two types. So suppose pressure epiphysis, the traction epiphysis is pressure epiphysis because of transmission of body weight. That part of the bone helps in the transmission of body weight. Traction epiphysis, that part of the bone to pull the muscles. Pressure epiphysis always appears first, then the traction epiphysis. The reason behind this is the child first to try to support his body's balance, his weight. Because of this, pressure epiphysis appears first. First, you have to balance your body and then start to move your body with the help of muscles. Next, the traction. Because of this, pressure epiphysis appears first, then traction epiphysis. If you take upper end of the humerus, the tubercles, lesser tubercle and greater tubercles are the traction epiphysis. Head of the humerus is pressure epiphysis. If you take the femur, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter are the traction epiphysis. Head of the femur is pressure epiphysis. The law is pressure epiphysis appears first, then the traction epiphysis. Like this, number of laws will be present. The violation of laws also will be very, very important. The secondary ossification center, instead of appear after birth, it just appears before birth. Just before birth at the time of 9th month. 3 bones. 100% is the lower end of femur. Next chances are upper end of tibia and then upper end of fibula. The another thing corresponds with the 3 parts, lower end of femur, upper ends of tibia and fibula are the growing ends of the bones. Because the nutrient foramen away from these ends, lower end of femur, upper end of tibia and upper end of fibula violates law of ossification, that is secondary ossification center develops before birth. And another common point, these are the growing ends of the bone because the nutrient foramen runs in opposite direction. The another common point, the epiphysis appears first, fuses with the diaphysis last. These are the 3 common points to 3 parts of the bones, lower end of femur, upper end of tibia and upper end of fibula. Coming to the clinical importance, if you take any bone, the fractures are very, very important. The fractures will be confirmed mainly by the X-rays. In the X-ray, the bone will be identified as a white shadow. But X-rays, the direct picture of the structure cannot be seen in the X-ray. Only shadows will be seen. 2 main shadows, one is white shadow and the second one is black shadow. Or white shadow is called radio opaque shadow and black shadow is called radiolucent shadow. Any structure in the X-ray, you have to tell them in the form of shadows. Whether it appears as a radio opaque shadow or radiolucent shadow. Opaque means white, lucent means black. Bone always appear as radio opaque shadow. Because of density of the bone, it is due to calcium. The X-rays will not pass through the bone. Because of this, you will get a white shadow, radio opaque shadow. That X-ray film is not exposed to the X-rays because X-rays will not pass through the dense structures like bone because of calcium. you will see white shadow. That means that film is not exposed to the X-rays. The other areas, there will not be any interruption for the passage of X-rays. Easily they will pass through and hit the X-ray. That will be appear as a black shadow. That means any X-ray, if you see, that black color is because of it receives the absorption of X-rays. That white color is no X-rays. That white shadow of the bone is because of calcium, because of its density. Here you can see the discontinuity of the bone. This is called fracture. One thing is fracture of the bone. The another thing is fracture associated with dislocation. Whenever upper end or lower ends are involved, it results in dislocation. One is fracture, another one is fracture dislocation. It may be ankle joint or it may be elbow joint, knee joint. These are the two common problems with any bone, fractures or fracture dislocations. If you take fracture at the junction of upper 2/3 and lower 1/3 of the shaft, any fracture at the junction of, here you can see upper 2/3 and lower 1/3 of the bone. This is very, very important. Healing is poor because of poor blood supply, because of no muscle attached. The muscular arteries sometimes also will supply the bone. Whenever the bone gives attachment to many muscles, that bone will get a rich blood supply. Because no muscle is attached at the junction of upper 2/3 and lower 1/3, because of poor blood supply, because of lack of muscular attachments, that poor healing is poor. That is very, very important. It takes much time to get healed. These are the some of the fractures of upper ends of the tibia, only single fracture. Here you can see multiple fractures. Here you can see multiple fragments of the tibia. And in this picture, you can see the oblique fracture and the spiral fracture depending upon its direction. And the comminuted fracture. The meaning of comminuted fracture means in this fracture only upper part and lower parts are separated. In the comminuted fracture means instead of two fragments, you will have more than two fragments. Here also one fragment, another fragment, this is another fragment. The bone gets fractured and the number of fragments will be present. That is called comminuted fracture. The compound or open fractures. Sometimes the bone gets fractured. That sharp ends of the bone, they will pierce the skin and will come out. Whenever that fracture is exposed to the outside by piercing the skin, that is called a compound fracture or open fracture. This is dangerous because the infection easily enters into the bone. Once a bone is infected, it is very, very difficult to cure that infection. That you have to remember. Once a bone gets infected, it is very, very difficult to heal or cure that infection. The open or compound fractures are dangerous when you compare with unopened fracture. That means bone will be fractured, but outside the skin will not be damaged. They will be easily healed because of no infection. But once the skin is damaged, if the fracture is exposed to the outside, the chances of infection is more. You have to take more care. Otherwise, it is very, very, very difficult to cure that fracture and also the infection. These are some of the clinical aspects. With this, I have completed the fractures and the fracture dislocations and also the tibia. The next class, the fibula will be taken by other faculty member. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.